BinGhatti holding here in Dubai said profit more than doubled last year to 1.8 billion dirhams, driven by record-breaking sales. Joining us now on the line to give us the story behind the numbers is the Chief Executive Officer. Delighted to welcome to the Business Breakfast, live on the line, Katralnada BinGhatti. Katralnada, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
I'm good, thanks very much indeed. So, cracking set of numbers. No surprise to see a real estate developer doing well in Dubai at the moment. But to have profit up 152% from 2023, which itself was a good year, is quite the achievement. How did you do that?
So I think it's largely due to the overall macro success of Dubai's market, the healthiness of Dubai's market. I think from a macro perspective, the surge in Dubai's population was a large factor. We saw about 160,000 net inflow migration into Dubai. The DIFC, for example, went from about 3,000 companies to 7,000 companies today, with 46,000 professionals. So I think the macro factors, but also the micro factors. So I think BinGhatti's business model played a big role. I think the uniqueness of the business model, in the sense that we're very much backward integrated. So having the development arm under BinGhatti Holding, but also the construction arm as well, the manufacturing facilities for steel, joinery and aluminium, the design in-house. And of course, as you may know, our executive chairman, Mohammed BinGhatti, is an architect by background. So the backward integrated business model. And I think also part of the business model as well, the fact that as a real estate player, we offer a product in every segment of the market. So whether it's the mainstream segment of the property market, the mid segment of the property market, or the ultra luxury segment of the property market, which was a large factor that played into our growth, because one of the things that we saw in 2024, for example, was a shift in demand towards tickets between AED 1 million and 3 million. And we're already playing in that space through our mainstream segment of properties. So I think all these factors in tandem with each other played a big role in our growth year on year.
It's the high end that tends to grab the headlines for people like us. When someone like Neymar, the footballer, buys a property from you for how many tens of millions of dirhams, that grabs the attention. Is that demand still there, Katralnada?
Absolutely, that demand is still there. I think for us, what we tend to do within our business model is, if you look at our portfolio, about 2/3 or just over 2/3 of our portfolio is about the mainstream and the mid segment. And of course, I know that we make a lot of headlines for our ultra luxury branded residences, but of course, as a management, we also pay close attention to the mainstream segment, because the construction cycles are quite short on those. On average, we complete those in about 12 to 18 months. So those that have very healthy cash conversion cycles, as you know. But to answer your question on whether the demand is still there for the ultra luxury branded residences, absolutely. And it's also due to the macro factors, as I mentioned. I mean, the UAE saw the highest inflow of millionaires in 2024, about 6,700 millionaires. And today, Dubai has the highest concentration of private wealth. We have about 72,500 millionaires. We have 212 centimillionaires and about 15 billionaires. So the demand is very much still there.
Let's talk about what happens next. Your pipeline for this year, for 2025, you've bought a lot of land, haven't you? But are we seeing the prices rise to acquire that land? Well, we know the prices are rising. How are you coping with that when it comes to buying new plots?
So for us, we think the market's in a very healthy position. Yes, maybe there is some sort of price appreciation on the plot side, but also Dubai has been very kind to real estate developers, in the sense that we see prices appreciate almost every quarter in our selling prices of our properties. So we're in a very healthy position, even with maybe some sort of a rise in plot prices. And by the way, when we talk about price appreciation and growth, I know that there's maybe a common misconception about spikes in growth, but actually the growth is quite gradual and very moderate. So if you look at it on a month-on-month basis, it's about 1.2%. So we're not seeing any scary spikes or anything like that. It's actually very gradual and moderate growth, which is what we want to see because we want sustainable growth.
You've got a bond listed on the London Stock Exchange, $500 million, an Islamic bond, a sukuk. I've got to ask you the IPO question, Katralnada. It's the flavour of the month at the moment. You've clearly had that. You must have had that conversation with Mohammed and the team. How does that conversation go?
So for us, the first step is always, of course, when we went into debt capital markets with the sukuk issuance, which was a massive success. I think what's important to understand about BinGhatti is that we will always do something at the right time. And what I mean by that is, the sukuk is a perfect example of that, because a lot of people will think of issuing a sukuk as merely a capital raising exercise. And while it is a large cash injection into the company, for us, it's more than that. For us, it's, for example, establishing visibility in global markets. So as you may know, the sukuk is listed on not only Nasdaq Dubai, but also London Stock Exchange. And part of the marketing for a lot of these debt capital markets issuers happens in cities like London and Singapore and Hong Kong. So it comes with a lot of global visibility. As for your question on the IPO, in the short term, maybe there's no plans for that. But of course, as a company, we remain very opportunistic, but we're also very selective, and we will always do something when the time is right.
Finally, international expansion. Your name is all around Dubai, whether it's relatively affordable apartments in the likes of Silicon Oasis or Jumeirah Village Circle, or is it Triangle? I always get them confused, or all the luxury stuff. What about getting the BinGhatti name in some of those cities that you mentioned?
Good question. And by the way, it's Jumeirah Village Circle and Jumeirah Village Triangle as well. So there's two of them. But that's an excellent question. For us, I think when it comes to expansion, the reason I say it's a good question, because your question has come at the right time. So the first thing that we're doing in terms of expansion is actually expanding into financial markets. So under BinGhatti Holding, we have set up BinGhatti Capital, which is the financial vehicle under BinGhatti Holding. And we'll be talking about that more in the future once all the regulation and the regulatory approvals are completed for that. This is going to be regulated by the DFSA and registered in the DIFC. But in terms of global expansion, more relevant to your question, I think there's still a lot of growth potential and many pockets of growth within Dubai. And we are a Dubai-born company, and our focus is on Dubai. However, I also believe there's also large pockets of growth within the UAE. So I think when it comes to expansion, we are eyeing intra-Emirates expansion, so expansion into cities within the UAE. And also maybe at a later stage, we are eyeing markets within the Middle East, such as Saudi Arabia.
Katralnada, very quickly and a little cheekily, we've only got 30 seconds. You, of course, have got a lot on your plate at the moment, but you can't have helped but notice that Alda have rolled out Christina Aguilera within the last couple of days. Azizi have tapped into J-Lo. Can we expect Beyonce for the next BinGhatti launch?
Well, we are having some conversations with some very interesting public figures. But as you know, we have sold a penthouse to Neymar Jr., who's one of our brand ambassadors, as well as Andrea Bocelli. And as you know, Terry Crews is one of our friends of the brand. So maybe some more athletes in the future. We'll see.
Katralnada, great talk to you. Appreciate your time this morning. The thoughts of Katralnada BinGhatti there, CEO at BinGhatti Holding.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Join the conversation.